What's up, guys? Welcome to the Nerd Talk podcast, Nerdy Talk for nerdy fans. I'm your host, Remington Keyes, and we have a guest on the show today. This is Martin Thomas from Double Toasted.
Hey everybody, how's it going, Remington?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you on my show.
How long
Most
you been doing
important,
this show?
I've been doing it for a couple of years, like off and on. It's mostly we did it to compete with Collider Video, but
Okay.
then there was just no competition at that point. It was really hard. It's really hard to do what you and Collider do in New England. There's not a lot of support.
Oh,
So
I see what you mean. Well, the way it is, you kind of get your own equipment, and honestly, we worked for years in a studio, and we're back to doing it out of a room in Corey's house. You just got it set up to where when it's on the air, it looks like we're still in the studio.
yeah, you guys look super professional. I can never tell whether you guys are in a studio or just doing the closet, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's part of just doing it for years, but just kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
I gotta let you know this because you and Corey are like very much an inspiration to me. I'm a mixed black kid. Okay, there's
Okay.
and for years I was in an environment where there wasn't a lot of black heroes to look up to in this kind of space. And
Yeah.
I think watching your videos growing up, kind of like you guys were the inspiration. You know, you guys were kind of part of me getting into this, and like gave me black heroes, to look up to. You know,
We're like Luke Cage and the Falcon, huh?
exactly. Like
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, thank you. Thank you.
I really want to thank you for representing us in a positive way. Because I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like it feels like with all the craziness going on, there isn't a lot of positivity representing us these days.
Sure. Sometimes it's hard to see because everything that's negative, that's what sells. That's what's gonna get pushed in your face. It's gonna, it's gonna make you scared. And being scared or desperate makes you spend money or do things you would normally do. Uh, I like to think that we're something of a counter to that. I mean, we're still talking about movies and TV shows, but in between, we slip in a lot of things that are very real world and actually have some weight to them.
And you guys talk about what's current in the culture too.
Yeah,
It's really good, and you guys do it. You do the movie reviews from a different perspective that some people might not even go there.
sure. Well, that's
But
it. That is something when I talk to people who are, who are like you, who are getting into it and want to know what should they do or what can they do differently. And a lot of it, I say, like, make it personal, because you can go on the web and read 200-300 movie reviews that give you a full synopsis that break down the entire plot and tell you what's good and what's not. And I don't know, it just stops being special at some point. It's like, well, I got my own opinion about that. I can just read a Wikipedia entry if it comes to that. But making it personal and having something to say is really what sets it out. To me, it's what makes it worth it. Otherwise, I'd get tired of talking about it.
yeah, exactly. So let's go down your origin story. What got you into the movie reviewing space? What did you want to be a filmmaker? Did you?
Oh no, not at all. I kind of backed into it. My dream was to be a comic book artist, and I did that for a while.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I was freelancing for a bunch of different companies, a lot of independents, some stuff from Marvel, some stuff for DC. And during this time, in the crossover from the late 80s into the early and mid 90s, here in town in Austin, there was a big scene of cartoonists, some comic book artists, some animators, mostly comic strip artists. and we would all gather. It really was a community, and a lot of these people have gone on to do other bigger and better things. But the only two Black guys in this group were me and Corey, and he was still, I think he was still a college student at the time. But he and I bonded, and as we would, and I think we lost touch, like we weren't seeing each other as much for about a year or so. And then I look up one day on Access Television, and he's doing this movie review show with a friend of his, and it was hilarious. And I called him up to say, "Man, I didn't know you were doing this. This is funny." And every so often I watch an episode, because they had to edit it. It took about a month to edit each episode, and so in between those episodes were being reruns. But every time I saw a new one, I call him up and tell him, just what I thought about it, how good it was. And his partner left, and he was kind of running the show by himself, and for a while just taking on different co-hosts. And he had gotten, I was with him at a screening, and this kid comes up and says, hey, I've been watching your show, and I hear you want to co-host, a permanent co-host, and I want to volunteer for it. And that was Tony Guerrero, who you guys know as the co-host 3000, or whichever thousand he is at the time. And I think he was just out of high school at the time. So it was the two of them doing it, and they had me on every so often. I think it was a time when they were like, "Hey, there's 2 screenings or 3 screenings, and we can't get to all of them. Would you mind going to one and coming on and talking about it?" And it was fun. I had a great time, and it got to be a semi-regular thing that turned into a regular thing, just within like a couple months. And then that was, I don't know, that's just what I've been doing since the mid 90s.
That's awesome. That's great. I didn't know people were doing it like that back then.
Oh yeah, it was pre-YouTube.
That's crazy, because I started in the beginning of YouTube, right around 2006, right around 2007, doing other stuff, because I wanted to be a filmmaker at 10 years old, and I used to go around with my little camera and film my 5-year-old brother going around, and we do like make our own like sitcoms and stuff. And
that's cool.
And well, it's cool, but when I went to college, so I started college at 15, thinking, oh, I got all this experience, and the college pretty much shut me down. It was like, we don't care how much experience you have, and that's what kind of lost my interest in filmmaking. Was
wait, so you went to college at 15?
Yeah, so because I was it was either that or I was gonna go and join a gang. I was really on the cusp of I'm from an inner city. It was either I was gonna either drop out and join a gang, or skip a couple grades and get out of there, because my parents just were not listening to me about how bad the school system was.
Wow, you ever stop and think about what you just said? That you were at that point, you were at that Goodwill Hunting point where you're this genius, but you're all wrapped up in what's going on in the inner city. And
that's why you guys are so important to me, because you guys were part of this transition. Because I was at a point where I hated being a Black kid because of all the negativity it brought me, being in the inner city. And I'm going, I'm half white, I hear all this white privilege. I get stopped at the grocery store. I have white siblings, right?
Yeah.
I get stopped in the grocery store. They're going, "Where's your receipt?" I'm going, "It's walking away with my white sibling over there." You know?
Yeah.
Like, you guys really made me feel positive about being Black. Watching your show. That's why you guys are such a big deal to me.
Well, that
makes me feel good about myself.
No, that's flattering to hear. It makes me feel good to hear that. It's funny, thinking about what you just said. You being half Black or half white, you had half privilege. Like, you didn't see it. You saw it as, oh, because I'm Black, my Black side keeps me from having the white privilege. But being lighter skinned gives you some privilege over your darker skinned brothers. And I'm light skinned myself, and even though it doesn't always come to me, I do recognize it. There's colorism where there's just a slight bit of extra favor to it. it's completely fucked up, but it is what it is.
And it's crazy sometimes because the black community doesn't want to accept me sometimes because I'm mixed, but then the white community don't want me either. So
Well, the black community will make fun of you, but they will accept you. You'll just get ragged on sometimes. No, that's great to hear.
So like you guys are like super important, to the development. And
Right.
I
How
wouldn't.
old are you now?
I'm 26.
Okay, well, don't give up on your filmmaking dream. You're at a good age.
Because I was working, I got to go out to. I had like real experience because I got to go work out for MTV as like one of the like a cameraman. I got to do like all this cool stuff, and I'd go back and tell my professors, and they'd be like, "Oh, so like they'd like put it down, like that I was doing real work."
Yeah, no, that's real work right there.
And I think it's because, like I said, this is not a good area for filmmaking and all that.
Oh, that's right. I forget you're in New England. Okay, never mind. Gee,
Yeah,
okay.
with the
I'm sorry.
professors.
That puts a whole new perspective on everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're not in a good spot.
I
you gotta hit the coast, either New York or California.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're saying, okay, enough about me.
But what's your first movie memory that got you to watch like movies?
Well, I think most people, other than like elderly people. I was talking to the other day, a couple days ago, we had a young filmmaker, Farhan Moradi, on our show, and he mentioned how his dad does not like fiction and doesn't like movies.
Yeah.
And I know that my mom went through a period where she didn't like fiction. She just said, like, why would I want to watch something that somebody made up? Outside of that, I think everybody loves movies. People love storytelling to begin with. Movies are probably the most digestible form of storytelling. It's everything right there, presented to you on a silver platter at 2.5 hours or less, and you get most of the whole thing. It's sexy people and it's music. So liking movies is something that's just going to be human. You're always going to like something like that. I think the first movie I can remember, it's tough to say because you watch so many on TV. I think my first going to a theater experience was the Disney Robin Hood, the one where they're all animals and foxes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember because they even gave us little green and red Robin Hood hats at the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then after that, I remember distinct memories of going to so much, I guess, or I would say sneaking off. I didn't really sneak off. I just didn't have the parent rental supervision. Catching bus going across town to watch Bruce Lee movies at the Majestic Theater, and it was a Return of the Dragon, which has a different name most of the time, but I always think of it as Return of the Dragon. I do remember coming out of it, going to the playground, and it's as if everybody saw it because everybody out there wanted to do kung fu with each other.
Oh, that's awesome. I think the big movie when I was a kid was a lot of the like Disney Renaissance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone was watching, and Rat Race and Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah. Rat Race. I forgot about Rat Race.
I think I was the only one. I never understood as a kid why people never liked it because I was a kid. I had it on VHS. I must have 4 copies of it on VHS. I love that movie. What's your favorite TV show to binge watch?
Ooh, that's actually a tough, because a lot of the shows that I love, they I think they're all either they've finished or they're on hiatus. I mean, my top shows have been 6 Feet Under, The Shield, Barry, Breaking Bad, waiting for that last bit of Better Call Saul. I've been liking some comedies. Search Party is a show during the pandemic I completely fell in love with. I was also in love with Raised by Wolves, but that just got canceled. So that brought up all kinds of questions that'll never get answered. right now I'm at a point where I'm kind of looking for something. I know the new Star Trek show is good, and yet a lot of times when I'm watching it, I'm just kind of drifting off. And I was like, I know this is good. It's probably the best thing they've done in a while. But I don't know. I think I should be more into it, and I'm not.
I
I
think I lost interest in Star Trek when Seth MacFarlane did the Orville, and the
oh
Orville ended
yeah.
up being so much better than modern day Star Trek.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, but you know, it each to his own.
I don't know. There's something magical about his view of it
Hmm.
that it's like it made me feel like I wrote Star Trek. You know, like
Yeah.
because it feels like it's from like somebody who loved the property,
Oh, clearly, clearly.
where the modern day Star Trek shows feel like a corporate wrote it, like a corporation wrote it.
Well, I tell you, with those first two seasons of Discovery, I was really enchanted with those, in as much as it was doing so many different things. Because that had become my thing with Star Trek, was that um it kept doing new series, but I was like, yeah, it just seems like it's more of the same. I wish they would do something different, take some chances. And with Discovery, that was happening. I was like, wow, show is not focused on the captain, and our main character gets court-martialed, and there's all I can't predict what's going on. And especially in that second season when they brought in Captain Pike, I was like, man, now they've merged everything that's been new that they've done with everything old that everybody likes. So I got excited about that. When you got to Picard, I was more of a, yeah, it's just kind of, we're taking nostalgia trips.
My dad, who's an old Star Trek head, feels the same way about Discovery that you do. You know,
Mhm. Yeah,
so
it had a little bit of a edge to it, much like the Star Trek I grew up with, the original series. Now,
yeah,
now I wasn't watching first run; it was in syndication, but that was Star Trek to me. Even so much that when Next Generation came on, I was like, "Well, this is nice," but everybody's so nice. There's not really a lot of conflict, and I missed that. And that's what
yeah.
Discovery brought back.
Yeah, there's something just classic about the old school Star Trek. You know, I can still watch it to this day, and you know, it feels new to me. You know,
Oh yeah,
I've seen every episode. You know,
yeah, yeah.
who are some of your biggest filmmaking influences? But I maybe we can do comic book influences because you were into
Sure, sure. Yeah, I saw that question. I was like, well, if I was a filmmaker, I could really answer that. But with comic books, there's a name that you don't hear much anymore, but the artist is Paul Galassi,
yeah.
and he was the artist on Shang-Chi Master Kung Fu. And he had a very cinematic style. He drew most of the characters to look like actors. I drew Shang-Chi to look exactly like Bruce Lee a lot of times, to the point where his editors were always like, hey, stop that, you're going to get us sued. But these are just, for the time, just amazing comics. And little did I realize that he had been influenced by an artist, heavily influenced by an artist named Jim Steranko, who had
Oh, Jim
drawn Nick
Steranko.
Fury and Captain America before that. But but then Galassi was a big influence on somebody who became my next favorite artist without me realizing it, and that was Steve Rude, who drew he's famous for drawing Nexus, and his ability to draw humans. You have a lot of people in comics who learn to draw comics from looking at comics.
Yeah.
Uh, but he was somebody who they said, he was a classic artist, and is that he learned to draw the way you do from looking at life, and such a beautiful, simplistic, almost kind of 50s style. But I thought he was the best, and I followed him for years, and got to know him, and befriend him for a while. Um, and he was probably my biggest influence. Now this guy's working now that I'm over the moon about. Greg Smallwood is the first one that comes to mind, and he's currently working on the Human Target for DC. Uh,
Oh yeah.
what's it? Daniel Acuna, uh, who does a lot of stuff for Marvel. These are two artists where if I see their name on a book, I'm gonna buy it like that without even looking to see who's writing it. I'll at least buy the first issue, and if I like that, then I'm gonna keep going with the series. Mitch Gerhard's it's great. Nick Darrington, who else is somebody? Oh, I had somebody on the tip of my tongue. Oh, Paul Azaceta, who drew Outcast for the entire run. That is also somebody where just there's this simplicity but fantastic drawing to his style. And yeah, these are the guys I'm liking right now.
That's awesome. I made as a creator, I made like a rule only from as a kid. Oh, I still have this rule to this day. All my main characters are going to be black
Mhm.
because it just isn't enough
That
black
that that's so
main
funny.
characters.
I made the same rule for myself like about a year ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even so, when I released my novel, all my characters are black, and it's about ninjas and superheroes and stuff. But every character is black. You know, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's the whole thing of representation matters. You can try to blow it off and put it down as much as you want, but it really does.
Yeah.
Somebody seeing themselves, it's the kind of thing where when it's not there, you think it doesn't matter until you see it and something lights up in you and you go, oh wait, that those doors are open for me too. Or I never somebody it's more of somebody never thinking that they couldn't because they always had that representation there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you don't want to get too far into forced representation
No.
because that also sends a negative message.
I mean,
Just like how, like all I felt like in every '90s cartoon, they had to have a black kid, had to have an Asian kid. It's like, well, why don't we just have like an all black kid cartoon? Don't make them feel so forced. Make it feel natural that there'd be a black kid there. Not like
yeah.
it's a token black kid.
No, I know. I mean, it's so much better now than it was then, but it had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and at that time, I mean, prior to that, the thinking was nobody of color, and then it became all right, one person of color, two if they're different colors, because if you put too many of one in there, it, you put more than one black person in something, then it becomes a black thing.
Yeah.
And then people have a reason to not tune into it.
Which is
So
crazy.
yeah, but now you see it all the time. Like, growing up, interracial couple, that was a big deal. It was a big deal. I don't know if you
Well,
ever heard of or watched the show The Jeffersons, but a good 50% of the humor on that was jokes about the interracial couple that lived next door.
I love the Jeffersons.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious.
Or
But
even when the guy's son was trying to marry the white girl.
yes, yes. But watching it now, those jokes fall flat. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to really put yourself in that mindset because otherwise you're going, it's the big deal, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, interracial couples aren't just everywhere around you. They're on TV all the time. There's plenty of shows where the black man, the black boy is the love interest and his race is not even brought up.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing anymore. It's as bad as the world seems to get. That is one thing that I think is progressive and beautiful.
I like that we're able to move forward a little bit with the progression of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it was for so long they could never show Asian men as having sex appeal, and now I'm seeing it all the time.
Yeah, I see it like in sitcoms and stuff. Like
Mhm.
it's different archetypes,
Yeah.
that they're able to bring in. Where do you see the film industry going within the next year, 5 years, or 10 years?
Well, they still got a lot to figure out. Between, I mean, they've never had it figured out. Nobody has it figured out what's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Something comes out and it's a hit, and people will say, oh, well, it's because of this, and it had this star and recognizable person and great media campaign. And then something else will come out and have all those same things and fail. And they'll look and go like, well, maybe it was because this over here, and they didn't do this, and this person isn't as popular as everybody thinks they are. But really, the honest people will tell you that nobody knows. It's whatever the formula is, it is too complex to be figured out right now. The big scramble is the do we put stuff on streaming or do we get into theater? And at what point do you hit the saturation point where there's nobody left to subscribe to your channel? Like everybody who's done it is going to do it. So it's got to go theater. And then it's a question of, all right, how much money do we spend if we might not make it back? That's what it's coming down to. But yeah, it is way too hard to predict what's going to happen in the future, because everybody thought that everything was going to go streaming and going to theater was dead, and theaters were going to be extinct, and that's how it was. And then Top Gun Maverick just hit $1 billion.
Oh, Top Gun was great.
Yeah. So that all that thinking and predictions from before, clearly wrong, or at least not 100% accurate. So there's a lot that needs to be figured out.
Thank you for joining the podcast.
Sure.
Do you have any social media you want to promote, or anything you want to promote?
Man, I mean, just check me out on Double Toasted. I'm there 3 nights a week, but the shows are 5, sometimes 6 nights a week. Also, I'm doing this separate show you can catch on YouTube called Crossover Event. Episodes run about 20-30 minutes. We release them on Tuesday. Oh, matter of fact, the new episode will be dropping today. Oh, I think it has already. I'm supposed to be posting that now to let everybody know it's up. But yeah, and that's a lot. That's more comic book centric. But yeah, it's it's just kind of a quick bite show. The same pop culture stuff that everybody does, but yeah, it's courtesy of Screen Fanatic. So yeah, look for a Crossover Event, and those are the main things.
Well, thank you for joining us on the show, and we'll hope to have you on again sometime soon.
Sure, you bet, Remington. It was fun.
Thank you.